Boom, 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 boom. Don't you just love that intro music? It gets me like psyched up. Hey guys, it's Friday Night Live with yours truly, Christopher Rausch, and my fellow co-host. I'll be bringing on just a second, Scott Goyette. We have an amazing show for you tonight. But first things first, ladies and gentlemen, it is 9/11. Been 19 years, so I'm inviting you, whether you're here live or watching this on the replay, we're going to take 11 seconds. We're going to take 11 seconds. We're going to remember all the people that were impacted by that day, all the first responders, all the people that lost their fathers and their mothers, the people that have still battled with things that are still going on in their health system, everybody that was impacted that day. We're going to take 11 seconds from right now. And I just want you to think about the beauty of life and the beauty that we're here and the opportunities that we have. And just remember that those people, lost their lives and that we can commemorate them here today. So just 11 seconds. Just think to yourself. Thank you. Something I just wanted to do. I know some people that were impacted by that, and every year it comes by. Of course, we always remember where we were at. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And also I just want to acknowledge everybody out there who is hurting and suffering today. I know we got forest fires that are going on around here in Southern California, Oregon, Colorado, God knows where. Here in California, it's unprecedented. It's over 2 million acres burned. So I know some people that have lost their houses. I know some people that could potentially lose their house. And if you guys have been following us for any time, we recently had the Woolsey fire. We had Scott Marshall on talking about how he lost his home back in 2018 in the Woolsey fire. So we just send our heart and our love out to you guys. Not starting the show on a bummer note because we have an amazing guest with us tonight. But I'm going to bring on my beautiful co-host for a second, Mr. Scott Goyette. What's up, brother?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good.
You're good. You're good. Hey, first of all, normally we cheers a drink. So I got my vitamin water. So I'm not drinking right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm taking a little sabbatical. So I'm getting healthy again. So I got my vitamin water.
What do you rock? So I'll be honest with you. I started doing all the health stuff too. And I just drank a kombucha and a water. But I've been running around a little crazy today. And I'm going to start that full tomorrow.
Beautiful, brother. Beautiful. Hey, man. Hey, we all got to start sometime. So yeah, I'm on day 4 and I feel like I'm plugged in. I'm like, normally I have a drink to calm down before I do the show because I know I talk so much. But yeah, I'm just like, okay, I went and lifted weights for a second. I was just like, okay, I got to calm down a little bit, Chris. You're like, and I've already swam. I've already walked the dog. I've already done a bunch of shit. But yeah, man, we have an excellent guest with us tonight. Monica Kretschmer. Monica Kretschmer is an amazing powerhouse of a woman, and that's why I titled the show as a powerhouse. So please welcome to the show, Miss Monica Kretschmer. How are you doing, Monica?
I'm awesome, and I want to say cheers to you both. This is actually water. This is flavored water, so cheers.
Cheers.
Flavored water sounds good.
Yeah,
his is flavored with beer. Mine usually flavored with Jack Daniels.
So I've been really healthy. I just needed a quick stop, and I decided the stop was going to be I'm going to have a beer. But I've been actually starting the health kick too. I've been doing tons of alkaline water, kombucha, on all my homeopathic supplements. I just needed this beer right now. This is my extrinsic reward, and I'm taking it and enjoying it. You do it,
brother. You do it. Hey, so I want to dive in. I want to dive into this conversation because I know it's going to be powerful for the people that are watching. And by the way, I should have looked already. I had the private chat up. Monica and I were having fun before we came on here. We were just trading fun stuff. And so Angel, what's up, Angel? Larry, good to see you. Trisha, hello. Larry, Ellie Nicole from San Diego, Glenda, Robert Brooker. Thank you guys all so much for being here. This is a powerful episode. And I want to start off with a question to you both. This came to me while I was taking a shower earlier. And I was just thinking about how can we start the show in a really powerful way, acknowledging women. And so I'd like to ask each of you, who is a powerful person who's a powerful woman in your life? I'm thinking back to maybe your mom or something like that, somebody powerful in your younger years that really set you up for the success that you have now. And actually I'll go first because I want you guys to think about it in case you don't know, but that person for me is my mom. Oddly enough, for people who know me and know my story with my mom, they know that it was a very contentious relationship. It was more like Bonnie and Clyde versus mother and son. But we went through a lot together. And I stuck by her side right up until the time she took her last breath. And I'm thankful that I did that. And I'm thankful for my wife for making me do that. And she was just a powerhouse. Although we didn't agree and we didn't do things the same way, she always taught. That's where I get the unstoppable from. She's like, we just keep going. We keep moving. We keep going. I mean, she would just keep going. She's like, okay, we're going to keep going and collect enough cans until we have enough money to eat tonight. We're going to keep going until we find the place that we're supposed to be going. She taught me that unstoppable attitude. And she taught me that you just never give up, no matter how you feel. I saw her get her leg amputated and still trying to carry a 20-pound bag of cat litter by herself. It was just, she was just unstoppable. So I owe that to my mom. And I'm very grateful for the time that we had together, although it made me the man I am today. And that's the way I look at it. So I'm happy to say that. But what about you guys?
So I would have to say, my grandmother, she was a single mom. And, it's so interesting that, as I'm now a single mom, I look back to when my grandmother was a single mom. And she passed away, regrettably, when I was 13 years old. But I'm looking at how hard it is for me and still is for me. But I'm looking at, the judgment. I mean, how do you actually pick up, move on, and be a single mom? Like, way back, like 60 years ago. Like, imagine how much courage it takes to do that. And my grandmother used to take on 2 jobs, look after my mother and my uncle. And I just, I look at all of the strength that she has, and she just was funny, and she was witty, and she was hardworking, and everybody loved her because she was so authentic, so I always was really, really close to her. And I know, actually, as I go through my life, even though she's not here with us today, she's always with me. Even though she left this world so early when I was 13. So I've always had my grandmother as my source of strength with me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Monica. That's beautiful. I love it. Nanas, man.
So he does the little freeze now.
No worries. I freeze every once in a while.
He's back.
What about you? What about you, Mr. Goyette?
So I'm glad that you guys went first, because my answer was actually going to be a combination of my grandmother and my mother. So you guys set that up through a perfect alley-oop pass, because I think many of us, will look back and we like to play the blame game on those who raised us and say, if I didn't have this or they understood this, that, you'd be a better person. And here's the reality. When we came into this world, we chose who we were going to come into this world with, whether we think it or not or believe it. So I look at it this way. My grandmother and my mother had so much to teach us. And, think of what we talk about, Chris, when we talk about the L in love and listening to your intuitive self, and then the angels show up. The first 2 female angels in my life were my mother and my grandmother. And when my mom was working as a single mom, I was with my grandmother a lot. And some of the things that I learned, I didn't like the way the lesson was presented, but you know what? I remember it. So I'm going to say a little combination of both of those for me. And I feel very blessed to have had the lessons that I've had. And there's many more powerful women, and we could go on. And a lot of, once you listen to the intuitive self and come in touch with your masculine and your feminine, and you stop denying this concept that you're a portion of both, man, people show up, on both sides. We have females and males that are super powerful, and there's some amazing feminine figures in my life that I'm blown away by. So I love it. Thanks for the question, Chris. Appreciate it.
No problem in your life. I was just engaging the people in the chat. We always welcome your guys' questions and welcome your answers as well. I mean, this is a conversation that we have with you guys as well. So we thank you for being here and sharing your Friday nights with us as well. But speaking of powerhouses, Monica, getting to know you over that phone call not too long ago, and thank you for Patricia for introducing us. I was just blown away by what you have accomplished with what you've accomplished. And I just would like you to share a little bit of your story and just kind of dive into what you're about.
So I just want to say thank you again, you both, for having me on the show. And Patricia, where are you? Thank you for the lovely introduction. It's so great to be able to share my story. And you know what? Sometimes when you're deep in the trenches, you have no idea how strong you are. And I COVID right now, as we've all been going through over the past 6 months, has been a huge test. But I think that and I know for a reason, that I was able to handle COVID mentally and look at it in a lot differently because of the adversity that I've gone through already. It was almost like, okay, bring it on, COVID, right? Because of all the lessons that and the hardships that I've been through, I'm like, this is nothing, like, because everybody's going through it together. When I was going through my own situation, I was the only one going through it. I'll start the story with, being 35, getting married. I just gave birth to my son. I always wanted to be a mom, right? So I had a 7-month-old baby. I was newly married for 15 months. And overnight, my life changed. Suddenly, I knew exactly what the walls of a women's shelter looked like. A month before, I'm organizing potlucks and I'm saying, hey, let's donate the clothes that the babies are growing out of and let's give them to the women's shelter. And really, I hate to say not how naive I really was, but I didn't have a clue what those women went through to be in the shelter. All I knew is that they needed help and support. So naive, I was like, let's help women. Our babies are growing out of clothes and let's give them to the women's shelter. Fast forward 30 days later, I'm in the women's shelter, and I live in a city where I have my family support around me. But what became very apparent was that my marriage ended abruptly, and the little stones became bigger stones, became bigger stones, became bigger stones. And it was like a boulder that was hitting me. And if I didn't move out of the way, it would have killed me. And so that was the point where I had picked up my baby and literally I left overnight. And, there's a bigger story there, but let's leave it at that, that there's a reason why women leave with a 7-month-old baby, and it's not a great situation. And so, I was in hiding twice. I wore a band on my arm for 2 years. That literally was a call, an SOS to the police department. And I haven't really shared that too much, but I think it's really important to share these things because as we look outside and our lives are somewhat disrupted, say it's the pandemic or whatever, there's somebody right now that's actually scared for their life with good reason. And you're like, no, this is just in the movies. And they look fine. They walk down the street. They look, the lipstick's on, the makeup's on, but you would have never any clue of what's going on behind closed doors. So that was really what I call the beginning of my 7-year journey. And so I really, I look back at that experience of being in the shelter with my son at such a young age. And like, literally, I share that, I lost 30 pounds in 2 weeks. I wasn't trying to, it just was, the stress was so high. And literally I woke up one morning, I put on my clothes and I was going into court and they fell off my body. I looked at my body in the mirror and all I could see was my bones. And I hadn't a clue how that had happened, and I'm breastfeeding my son. So I had to start supplementing my milk to make sure that he got his food. And, I look back at that time now and think, oh my God, I can't even believe that I went through that or that I experienced that. I can see vividly the color of the walls. I remember certain pieces of that and certain things I can't remember because it was so stressful. But what I can tell you was you do get through those times. You get through those times.
What got you through those times? I mean, and going from where you were at to suddenly being totally displaced and going on the other side of the fence. How did your mindset stay so positive? But how did you just keep going through that turmoil and also, sorry, too many thoughts at once. What got you to that breaking point? Because I know that, it must have been a huge breaking point, but do you recommend to the women that are watching not to get to that point? Or is it just something that each woman goes through on their own?
So I want to rewind to before you get married. Gotcha. Let's go right back to before you get married and really look at that person. And, I have to completely admit that I was probably, if I was absolutely as confident as I should have been, I probably wouldn't have ventured into that marriage because I had that intuition here going, these things don't feel right. That doesn't sound, or that doesn't feel normal. But I think it's because I honestly, I'm 35, and I thought, you know what? He's asked. He said, "Will you marry me?" And here's this 4.5 carat diamond ring, and I'm like, not who I thought would ask, right? He wasn't my first love, but this was this person I cared about, and I was in a relationship with, and I thought, well, this is it. And having never been engaged or didn't really know what that was about, you can't really describe that feeling. All I can say is it was like a car crash going fast like this. And if you have that sign, run like hell. Like, you know what I mean? It probably shouldn't have been the car crash feeling where you're spinning out of control and you don't really know what to say. Maybe that's a warning sign, right? It should be more like peaceful. Who knows? But I said yes. And I probably should have said no, because there were some things intuitively that didn't sit right in my gut, that didn't match up. Intuition. And I thought it would get intuition. I wasn't in tune with my intuition at that time. So I got engaged, and that was a lengthier engagement. And still there was things that came up, and the further along I went, there was roadblocks. And I'm like, I'm already deep in. Couldn't get much worse than this. Like the pebbles became bigger and bigger. And I'm going to write a book someday, but the pebbles became bigger, and I still went through, because I'm like, it couldn't get much worse. Like, am I just imagining all this? Or anyways, it really snowballed until I got married. And then it was one day, it's just out. But if I can offer any advice to any woman or any young woman, trying to make that decision about their life partner, be very, very certain of that relationship. And I don't care what situation you think that you're in too deep, you're not. Once you get married, you're way out. Like you're way in. So I don't know where everybody went.
No,
oh, there you are.
You were making such a great point. I just wanted to emphasize that with your words and have everybody focus on you instead of us mugs looking down at you, because
we're here for you. So we're going to put you up front and center sometime.
Okay. I'm like, where did everybody go?
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I even do it to Scott. Even I'm like, hey, Scott, say something pretty.
Hey.
What do you think about that, Scott? What do you think about what she said?
I think what she said was amazing. And, so Chris and I talk about this quite a bit. I think it's extremely important in all relationships to make sure that you know yourself, of course, before you even jump into something with somebody else. We go through all of this stuff in the love model, that listen to your intuitive self. I mean, you use the word intuition, connecting to source and having a relationship with source, your source being your spirit, your soul. When you know that that's where all truth comes from, all the answers show up. So you would have known, which you know now, where to go and not to be in that relationship. But how many, as we're even saying this out loud, how many people are really doing this? How many young people? I mean, when I tell you I would kill to teach what we teach throughout the world, just the basics of it, because it's literally a preparation to exist in this world. You're sitting here, who tells you how to get married? Who tells you how to have a relationship? And what do you do during engagement? There's no one. I mean, there's books on it. People throw out this information. 99% of it is BS. It's very simple. Are you trusting your intuitive self? Are you complementary to one another? Not like you're beautiful, but complementary, and you both bring something to the table. And can you exist independent of the other one? If you can do those things, and there's natural love to one another, the relationship is going to work. And if you can't do any of those things, you nailed it. Run.
Yeah. And I have to say that, it's in business now. I think it was Sheryl Sandberg that said, think about your relationship as a business partnership. Mm-hmm. And so I really believe that should be the foundation of that relationship. Those contracts need to be signed before you get married, and, out of respect for one another. And the contract that I was, faced with was brutal. And I should have ran when I saw that thing. It was just, that's a whole other topic. I really have a lot of knowledge in that world of divorce now and prepping for divorce. And, I agree with you. There's lots of knowledge to share with young women right? That are like, what does it feel like? How do you know? You know, you could lay it down for them and you could walk it through, and then you can show the other side if they choose not to listen to that, and how really challenging that is. And I think that's where, you know, I'll go to next, is the fact that I did leave that relationship. Thank goodness, right? I took my 7-month-old baby and I left, but I had no idea what was down the road for me. And what was down the road for me was actually a worse experience than the women's shelter. I got to tell you, flat out.
Wow.
You could get out of the women's shelter and you're intact. What happens is that if you leave an abusive situation, then you could get pulled into the court system. Okay. And I'm going to tell you right now, the court system is very broken. The family law area is extremely broken. And so if somebody really wants to pull you down and continue to bully and abuse you, all they need to do is file through the court system. And literally, it's like you cannot escape. You have to defend yourself. You have to fight yourself. And I'm going to tell you from experience, 4,800 hours I had to go through the court system. And
Wow.
that was over a period of what I call a 7-year journey, 4,800 hours. I literally had no knowledge of a lawyer before. I had never stepped into a courtroom before in my life. And over the course of 7 years, 4,800 hours, 22 days of trial for my family law, for my family divorce. It got buried down from 130 days down to 22. I think O.J. Simpson had 23 days. And so literally I had to go through that. And, you know, like it was like, I almost, you know, I had to get to a place where I really, really got clear on my intuition. I read, and I have, the law of attraction. I believed in that. You know, I got out of the shelter. I made home with my son in my mom's house. She had a basement that we renovated, and I had his crib and my bed. And like literally for 4 years, the first 4 years of my son's life, we were in my mom's home and in a basement. So I was homeless, and I was going through this really, really horrible legal battle and trying to keep my head above water. I literally barely was able to work. I'm being sued left and right. I think I had about 14 different actions over the go. They would hand me off the baby, and then with the other hand serve me with the paper. And this happened, like, if you can imagine the amount of stress that I was under, being a new mom, trying to be happy and enjoying this baby, but trying to get away from these people that were just bound and determined to pull me under. And I became so incredibly strong. I can't even explain the power that I stepped into when you're fighting for your life. Basically, I was fighting for my life. I was fighting for my son. And I literally had no idea where I get the superpower strength for, except for the fact that along the way, you know, I would just like, tomorrow's another day, and I get through that other day, and tomorrow's another day, and I get through that other day. And like, I actually went through quite a process to try and find a lawyer who wanted to represent me. And everybody else said, no way. They're like, not doing it. Can't do it.
Was it different actions from just your ex-husband, or was it different people that were coming after you?
No, it was just my ex-husband and his family. And so literally I one woman that said, I will take on your file. And I literally sobbed. I remember pulling over in exactly the place that I pulled over, and I sobbed. And I was telling her my story, and she said, I'm going to know on this. I'll give you the answer like Monday, sleep on over the weekend. And she said, I will take your file on. And she and I started that journey, what I now call my 7-year journey, over 4,800 hours, all the way to Supreme Court. We had no idea in the 22 days of trial, we had no idea that that was the path that we were on together. But if I can tell you that all you need is one person to believe in you, you can accomplish anything. And I had a lot of internal strength, but the days that I knew that she had my back and that she was working so hard for me when she had her own practice, and my file was the extra file that she was taking on when she already had her own family as well to care for, I couldn't let her down. I had to be super strong. So that's actually what pulled me through. But the court system is definitely flawed. I am, I need to change things. And it has made me the person that I am today without a shadow of doubt. But I don't wish that on anybody.
Wow. I am just so blown away, Monica. I mean, I had heard some of this when we were talking, but just to hear it again with your heart and your soul and your energy and your passion and knowing where you're at now. You mentioned earlier about family. So what was going on there? I mean, is that something you want to discuss? I mean, you said you had family around, but here you're going on this. Was that something that was controversial between the marriage?
So I'm going to leave it at very affluent family that didn't want to see me succeed. They wanted my son, and they wanted to stop at nothing to take him away from me. So why not push her, make her crazy? But they had no idea how internally strong I was and how resilient I am. And so I kept on persevering, and literally, I remember sitting around a table with 8 lawyers at the table and me. And, like, that's a whole other conversation. I'm not going to go like we've got 7 years of that. And then where it gets really beautiful is I'm going to show the beautiful part. So the beautiful part is at the end of what I call my 7-year journey, I saw light at the end of the tunnel. We had gone through this area, and I was presented with this beautiful proposal that if I signed this document, they couldn't sue me for 8 months, an 8 months moratorium. And so I jumped at it. I'm like, oh my God, that's my get out of jail card. I can actually start rebuilding my life. I'm just going to take it. Thinking that, oh my goodness, I have 8 months. What am I going to do with myself? And it was at that time that I'm like, okay, girl, you have been tested for a bigger purpose. What on earth are you going to do with all your strength? So I decided that I was going to start my company. At the time, it was Canadian Business Chicks. And so literally, I signed a paper February 28th. I still know the date. And I actually was standing on this table. I took a picture of the document. And I was just like, go. And there was no stopping me. And literally from February 28th until May, I launched my company. I had my business plan done. I had my core values done. I had my great little business cards done with my mission statement. And I knew my core values, ironically, which were courage, confidence, commitment, and integrity. I knew that those core values were the core values that actually got me through that 7-year journey. Those are the core values that would get me through my next journey, starting my business and being the foundation of my company. And I wanted to bring women together with shared values from every walk of life, very inclusive environment, because I truly believe that every woman brings something to the table, and the magic happens with the diversity and the shared value system. And that's where I started.
Absolutely. Scott, I can see you got something on your brain.
Yeah, you see me spin it.
I know.
So, Chris and I have had some amazingly powerful women on the show. We do have some amazingly powerful friends, and you're clearly one of them. And I love what I'm hearing, because the universe has a interesting way of finding the most powerful people. We all sit around and we get that little tap like, hey, I got a lesson for you. And we're like, I'm busy. And then we get punched in the face, and then we're like, excuse me, we got things to do. We get 2 elbows to the throat, and we're like, ugh. And so you do what Chris and I have done. You do what, Patricia, Serena, all these people have done. We take a train wreck. And so you had to be challenged by the universe to literally go through living hell, because you said something beautiful there. You didn't say we or anything. You said, I need to change the system. And I heard that loud and clear, and my head's still ringing with it. And that's beautiful, because you needed to build yourself up to be the leader that you are. And most likely, and correct me if I'm wrong, you wouldn't be this strong without that challenge.
No, not half as strong. I would not have known my absolute power that I have. And I've got to tell you, it's so strong that I feel fearless. It's like I've lost everything, and I'm still breathing, like I don't even fear, I know this is morbid, but I don't even fear death. right? Like if somebody says, you know, this is really dangerous, I'm like, oh yeah, I've been through it. You know, I just, it's not a big deal to me because I know that if you're focused and if you believe in yourself and you're surrounded by a good support system, the universe is going to guide you in a great way. And it's so interesting now that, you know, if I look back, there's a couple things that happened. I started my company and, you know, so here's where the universe is guiding me. So I I left this situation. I had this little window and I started this business. But guess what I did? I created this community of women supporting women. And I also created a celebration to honor my lawyer. So when I went to the Law Society, I said, hey, I really want to recognize this woman that went to like through this battle with me. She's amazing. And they're like, I'm sorry, but we only take complaints. We don't take compliments. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it myself.
Lord.
Like literally, I'm like, fine, I'll just do it on my own. And I remember close people in my world, and I like literally had 5 people in my world. I wasn't on social media. Like I was completely off the radar. Like I was so focused on doing my 9 to 5, barely keep my head above water, parenting my son, and court stuff. That's all I did for 7 years. And so anyways, somebody said, one of my good girlfriends, she says, Monica, she goes, maybe 50 people for this celebration will be great. I'm like, oh no, we're going to have a breakfast. We're going to have 200 people. We're going to invite everybody. And literally we sold out on, now this is the freaky part here. Okay. This is where it gets like goosebumpish. So on September 26, 2015, I honored my Woman of Inspiration. To the exact date, 8 years earlier, was the date that my lawyer and I started working together. So if you are ever wondering if there is a purpose for what you are going through, I'm going to say absolutely there is a purpose. Because to that date, I'm honoring someone that was in my life to the date. I didn't look out. I didn't have any clue that the dates were there, but you know, and I looked up, and as I'm honoring her, she says, but who me? I'm just a family law lawyer. And it was like I was watching everybody in the audience, and they were listening to the story. And, you know, as she was turning her pages, reading from her 16 font notes, like she would read into the record, you know, like we got her system down, right? And I look out to the audience, and I could see, like everybody's like a deer in headlights. Like you could see that they were thinking about that person that was a woman of inspiration in their world. And so that was the beginning of Woman of Inspiration Awards. So it went from 2015, one woman who was my woman of inspiration, my lawyer, Diane Harms. And over the years, it's grown. So we're now into 6 years. I've celebrated 700 women and Canada 150 event in 2017. And it's just been an incredible journey because the community that we've created are women that actually believe in supporting women. We have men that support her, and I can get you into that. But the whole journey was really part of that story, and it was part of the adversity that I've gone through.
That, oh my God. Wow. Monica, that is so unbelievable. You took something, and because you're such a good person, you said, hey, I want to do this for this one person. You could have said, okay, you know, you did your thing, you got recognition. Okay, I'm going to go do my thing. But you're like, no, this woman just like out of all the people in the world, you know, stood by you and stood with you and got you to that end point that you wanted to get to. I think that's so amazing. It so lends to what Scott was saying is that, you know, I believe that the adversity that we go through is to shape us to become the people we're going to become, because now, like you said, exactly so coincidentally, COVID comes and you're like, oh, really? Yeah, I've been through so much worse shit in my life. Yeah, F you, you know, that's what it's going to be like. But I want to acknowledge a couple of the comments here. I mean, everybody's just really chiming in. We really appreciate that. Megan says, if anyone has unrelentless passion for court accountability and would commit to working for this, please message me with the state you live in, and I will plug you in with the founder of an organization who has created an organization that promotes transparency and accountability in the courts. He also went through family court litigation and won the Supreme Court pro se. I'm not sure of that. Pro se?
Court pro se.
What? And this is Megan. Hi, Megan. Thank you so much. Do you know Megan, Monica?
I don't know Megan. I'm in Canada, Megan. So I'm assuming that might be in the US. I honestly have friends all over the US, and when I share some of the stories that I've been through, it's consistent in the US. Like, it's just rampant. Family law should not be litigated the way it is. And the bullies, there's no stop button for that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then Robert says here, Robert actually asked if you were from Canada. So you actually just answered that question. So thank you. The idea that the court system is an oxymoron has occurred to me during the latest divorce. Not that I am collecting them or anything. The latest divorce, this just in, I have another divorce. Hey, Robert, thank you so much for being here. Let's see. I think Pamela had a comment as well. She's talking to Cindy there. Angel had a good one. Angel's one of the great supporters of our show. She says, my ex had relatives that were judges and politicians to help make my life hell and take my youngest son. That is so effed up. I want to ask you, because I think I shared with you, Monica, my story was a little bit similar. I mean, my mom and I became homeless. I was much older. I was 13 years old, and we were homeless for 4 years. And I just really wonder, and if you're comfortable talking about it, I'd like to know what your son went through and how he grew up and who he is today for that journey that he went with you on.
I have to say that for him, it's been really hard. He thinks he's okay, and but I try and little boys don't talk as much as little girls talk, and our relationship. I honestly wish I didn't have an opposing party that was only trying to say mom's bad. Like, it's severe. If they're that determined on holding me down, they're not saying, oh, would you remember that it's Mother's Day, make sure that you get your mom flowers. Like, that never happens. Right. And it was like, they're always trying to find a way of undermining my parenting, which is incredibly difficult. And, he's never seen mom and dad in the same room. So how do kids, kids need to see proper male and female relationships, right? So, I really like to find proper role models to have him around that aren't the lying shysters that, his family is. But I have to respect the fact that that's his father's side of the family, right? So, I'm just hoping that I can infuse enough values on him so that when he does get older, that he is able to make those right decisions and have a great woman. Like, I always thought, I said to him, you know what, I want to raise you to be a good husband and a support system to a wonderful woman who's going to care for you and love you, and that you're going to have kids and you're going to have a beautiful life together. Like, because that's the way it should be. No child should have to go through what he's gone through. And, being in the court system as long as it is, I kind of just really, I get so angry thinking about the court system and how they've let this drag for so bloody long, because it's not great for anybody. And yeah, surely not for the child. And, like, I've been parenting, I've got the court order like since 2010. No. Yeah, 2010. I have the parenting order since 2010. I'm still in court.
Still?
I'm still in court. Yes. I got to say this. I'm still in court. God. So I became a self-rep litigant from 2014. Still to this date, it's still ongoing. But now I'm the one doing all the legal work. At a point when I was thinking about starting my business, I'm like, maybe I should just become a lawyer. And I thought, no, sorry. Too much effort. So, I author my own affidavits. I prepare my own cases. I go and do my own oral judgments. Sorry, not judgments. I do my own arguments. And, it's a ton of work. I take that all on, everything else that I do.
Mama Patricia's in the house. I didn't know my respect for you could just continue to grow, Monica. I mean, that is such an so amazing that you're just like, all right, if I'm going to keep doing this, I might as well do it myself. I'll probably do it better, whatever. And I mean, that's unbelievable. That should be illegal that they could continue to do that to somebody. That blows my mind. Patricia's here, says, Monica, you are a spectacular woman, mother, person. He will thrive. And I kind of froze when you were talking, so I'm gonna think that I'm paraphrasing. But if you're looking for role models, me and him. I'm the cuter one.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have my dad. I call him a sperm donor. He had a family of his own, and I never had much of a fatherly influence in my life aside from my grandfather until I got into my late teens, 17, 18 years old, when my first wife's dad took an interest in me and mentored me and said, "Hey, man, here's what you're going to be a telemarketer and work in construction the rest of your life, or you go back and get your GED." So I'm so thankful that at least I had that in my life, because that was like a turning point for me being on the streets and just being a drug addict or something like that to being where I'm at today. So yeah, role models make a significant impact in life. So however we can do that, because I hate to hear that and to see that, that just breaks my heart.
Could I offer some unsolicited advice as a child who grew into an adult and was from a single parent family where my dad left?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, this is fun for Chris too, because he's never heard this stuff either. So I was one of those kids, like you said, boys don't talk as much. I thrived on being tough. Like everything about me, like, no, I'm cool. No, I'm cool. So to a point where I literally compartmentalized all feelings and literally had no concept that I wasn't cool. And so as I look back now and, you unpack all your BS, I realized that the comments that my mom made where she's like, "You're acting like your father." Now mind you, my dad left when I was one, drugs involved, inability to be a parent, no reason to sit and blame, like why somebody's not there. They weren't supposed to be here. So in that, for me, when she would say something like, "That's something your father would do," or whatever, when I know how much she despises or can't stand this person, that was crushing my soul. And I just hold it and hold it and hold it. And that still surfaces today where, if somebody says something to me, I'm like, don't ever effing say that to me again. And like intense anger comes out of me where I would kill somebody, like seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to figure out is, one of the most difficult things being a mom is you're trying to play that duality of the feminine and the masculine. And you could be the most amazing human being on the face of the earth. The child needs some masculine. And you said it too. There's that beautiful interaction between husband and wife, or male figure and female figure. And there's something there. And I guess what I'm saying is, like, be cautious, because if he's seeing the perception of one person is negative, whatever, and then there's a reminder of that, I'm not sure exactly how to phrase that, but there's nothing in my life that's caused that much animosity and anger. I've used it as fuel, but is that how you want to fuel yourself with those emotions? I mean, I've used it effectively, but I think there's better choices for fuel.
And I agree 100%. And thank you for sharing that, because I think we could talk a whole show on that, to be honest.
God, yeah.
And then some. And I know that my son, I'm too busy to date. I don't date, but I remember, well, maybe mom should date, and he's like, "No, mom, never. You're all mine." And I'm like, it's kind of scary. What?
I did that too. And then I told her she could date, and then she got married again. So it worked out for everyone.
Right. And I was like, okay, don't worry. I'm building my empire, but he's 14, and I literally, I haven't been in another relationship. He's been my focus, and, he's my focus. My business is my focus, and what space I have to put myself in that focus as well. So that's why I'm like, okay, let's surround him with some good role models. And I want to touch on the support her piece for my business, and where I realized that here I am, this woman of a women's organization, and I have this young boy who desperately, I want to surround him full of positive role models. And I'm not talking, I love that he sees somebody go through struggles, right? I want him to be able to not be above struggles, or being able to be vulnerable to share his struggles. I want him to see strength in that. So I really love to surround him with strong people that have risen to the top, but didn't have the greatest journey, because I think that's relatable for so many people. And so as 2018 hit with, at the height of our, the Me Too movement and, women empowerment, I thought, I need to create something that amplifies the voice and elevates the role models that are men that are champions for women and their workplaces, their networks, and their communities. And that, you know, a couple people have said, you know, Monica, I think you're nuts. And they actually said, I think that's suicide. I don't know what you're doing. That's really not great for your business. And I said, no, this is perfect for my business, because I don't see moving that needle as being how we do it alone. And so Support Her has become a very, very big piece of what we do with the Universal Women's Network and how I see that we are going to progress.
Thank you. I know you have a dog. It sounds like a German Shepherd.
No, I'm gonna. While you talk, I'll mute.
Oh no, it's all right. I want to see the dog. We're a family show.
Bring the dog in.
Bring the dog.
We all got dogs.
Sometimes he's walking in here. He wakes up from a nap. This is a family show. We're all good. Well, it's not a family show because sometimes I swear. But you know, thank you so much for sharing that, Monica. One of the questions that I did have that cropped up. Scott and I have been, you know, having conversations about Black Lives Matter and the social injustice issues that have been going on in the world today. And it dawned on me when I was also talking, I saw my friend Jose Morera here. He was on my Raw and Unscripted show, which you're going to be on this coming week. And we were talking at it from a Latin standpoint and from a Puerto Rican standpoint, the injustices and the things that he's faced. You know, when we think about equal lid for women, I mean, I grew up with a mom who literally told me, I can't clarify it, but she worked for Mattel Toy Corporation back in 1968 and 69. When women started wearing pants to work, and she wasn't allowed to wear pants on the manufacturing floor, and she sued Mattel for the right to be able to do that. So that was only back in 1969. We talked to us a little bit about how that's coming along. I mean, it seems like there's more equality for women. We now have a woman vice president. We have things going on, but is it still what's the word I'm trying to use? I thought the Black Lives Matter thing was better, but it isn't. Is the same thing with women, or has there been improvements and strides in that, in your opinion?
So I'm going to say I think we've been making great strides in the positive direction, but there's a lot of this and not a lot of the action taking on it. And, you know, so I'll just say that COVID, I know that for myself, that this is what I do every single day. I invest 1,000% in this. This is my entire life, you know, for the past 6 years. And if it's hard for me to get support, and this is my business as a 100% women-owned business, how hard is it for other women that they're working their businesses and they want to get financing and support and opportunities and grants? You know, there is so much political craziness that's in the world of women, you know, as a business. And so I think there's so much power struggles, there's politics. And, you know, I truly believe there's lots of companies that really are doing a great job, and those are the ones we want to strategically partner with. So those are the companies that I really dig deep in, and we do discovery calls, and I'm like, I select them and we interview, and I'm like, what are you doing? How can we work together? Because those are the companies that I want to align with, and those are the companies that I really want to help make visible and support and work together. But there is those underlying issues of, why aren't women getting on boards? And I literally am going to give you an example. I was on a call 2 weeks ago with some leaders across, the globe. And, you know, it was a great conversation. It was on diversity, inclusion, and equality. And, you know, and one of the women had said, you know, she's very accomplished, and she said, I'm dope. And I'm like, so much confidence. She's a powerhouse. She's a Black woman, beautiful, educated, you know, got the politics, and she, you know, was an entrepreneur, but she says, I have a hard time getting a paid role on a board of directors. Why is that? Why can she not get a seat at the table as a paid board of directors? Her CV is stunning. And why is that? You know, so I think that was like, oh my gosh. And then I hear conversations weekly where people are really sharing with me how hard it is, where in their own organizations where they see these power struggles. And, you know, where it's almost like men are fighting for their position of power. So hold on one second.
Are we still seeing that with, where'd you go?
I'm coming back.
Okay. I was just going to ask, are we seeing that with the younger generation, or is it more the good old boys, or is it the younger generation seem to be more flexible?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, as a professor, I mean, I see this left and right. I mean, here's the deal. There's a few factors we have to look at. Well, first and foremost, those who have the power don't, because trust will come, and they don't believe that those who are oppressed or those who haven't been in power are going to receive, equal opportunity. They think somehow they're going to fall to second or third place. They don't buy into it, and it's fear. And we always talk about fear of love. The second thing is honestly religion. I mean, religion. There's plenty of religions that are saying it's God, man, then woman. And I hate to say it. Do you believe that? I mean, if you believe that and you're following that, then you're part of the problem. I mean, here's the deal. Right now, I can sit, next to Monica, and there's something that you're a genius at, and it's independent of the fact you're a female and I'm a male. That's your genius. And the fact that you can bring the feminine qualities to that genius only amplifies it, doesn't dilute it, and vice versa. And we've got to start respecting those roles. There's something I can do as a man, and there's something from the masculine component that's beautiful, and vice versa. And we've got to look at that and fall in love with that and embrace that. And as soon as we make that not something to be feared, this world will change. And that's scary right now. That's scary for people who can't see that way. You brought up a good point. There's a lot of CEOs, that I see here in Austin, Texas, and a lot of them were excited. Trump was saying some of those programs that were going to have diversity, inclusion, and all that. He wanted to get rid of, what did he defund a lot of that and said there's too much of that. Mm-hmm. There's a guy here in Austin, Texas. His name is Brett Hurt, and he runs a company. He was the CEO of Bizarre Voice, this other company, and now he's the CEO. I'm blanking on the name of the company. But he has invested so much money in diversity and inclusion. And when you see, go look up Brett Hurt. Go friend him on Facebook and social media. When I read his stuff, I am so excited. He always says the right thing. Always says the right thing. He truly values women. He truly values, Black people, Hispanics, because he sees them for their beauty. He amplifies their difference, but he always fully understands that he didn't walk in their shoes and vice versa. And when you see the communication within his organizations and from his people, you literally are like, why is this not the microcosm to the macrocosm? Like, how do we make this spread? And so if Brett's doing it, I know that I'm doing it. I know that Chris is doing it. I know that you're doing it. And I see my students falling in love with the concepts. I know that it's growing. And the only thing in our way right now is time. And we're a society that wants things like that. But I will say this, it cannot be controlled anymore. And what I'm saying can't be controlled is love. Fear is going to be reduced, and the feminine is going to rise. And at the very least, we become equitable with masculinity. And when we look in, a woman's not worth 72 cents versus the dollar of the man. It's equal exchange of currency and energy. We're all beautiful creatures. We all bring our own brilliance, period. There's no argument to that. Anybody who argues that is the problem. Not even part of the problem, is the problem.
Amen. Your thoughts, Monica?
I just want to say, I think a lot of people are they're thinking, everybody has a thought, a sticky note, a committee, a formalized plan, or something. Everybody's thinking about it. But I think the urgency is that it needs to be almost like now. People are just very impatient because they want to see the results now. And sometimes a lot of companies just don't have the tools. And it's as simple as, money. It costs money to implement these programs, to take people away from their jobs that they're doing, to create teams to be able to do that. So, I think it's just, I think everybody has there she is. She's like somebody.
Bring her over here.
Oh, come on, Miss Molly. She'll come over and say hi. So I think it's just a matter of time. And, where I was, really ruthless when COVID started was, I'm like, I need to keep talking about recognizing women. I need to keep talking about, what are your programs like for diversity, inclusion, and let's have that conversation. Let's have that discovery call. So over the past 6 months, I have been full on doing that. And, you know, I probably annoyed some people because they're like, shouldn't you be talking about COVID? And yes, I had conversations about COVID, but I really wanted to get in and I really wanted to talk and keep that pressure up on that because it was so important. And I think that is how you do it, is you have to just keep continuing to do this over and over again and continue to talk about it. I think talking, you know, between how are you feeling? You know, did I offend you? Are you uncomfortable? You know, you have to have that dialogue. It's really not that hard, you know, and people have to be open to not penalizing somebody. I mean, I think that I had wrote on somebody's, and I felt really bad about it. And I didn't do it on purpose, but, you know, when the Black Lives Matter came out, I put a screen out and I'm hashtag, you know, I think I read Black Lives Matter. I did a hashtag and I read something where you're not supposed to do the hashtag because then it gets too much out there, and just put the screen up. So then I did that, but then I hashtagged all lives matter. And then somebody attacked me and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't mean, like, sorry. Like I just want to do the right thing. And I think that if people are doing the right thing and they're asking the questions and they correct and they just keep moving forward, that's how we're going to do it, right? We just have to be respectful and know that people's hearts are in the right place, that we all want to get to the same place, but we can't be expected to know everything. And that's why the questioning and the conversation, the dialogue is so essential.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Scott.
Chris and I go through this so much. It's people love to put the rat in the corner and then attack it and wonder why it attacks back. And one thing, I was just having a conversation in the locker room with a guy while we were half naked, actually, with towels on, which is kind of weird, but I was just thinking of that. I just got out of the gym. I was thinking I have weird conversations at the weirdest places. No, so we're sitting there at the gym. I hadn't seen this guy. I saw this guy because he saw my Buddha tattoo on my arm like 2 weeks ago. We started talking, and I swear to God, he was connected, you know, by a source, by the universe. But we started talking about what's happened is we look at people on the right and we look at people on the left who are exclusively saying, you know, this is the way it has to be, or somebody who's, you know, ultra progressive who is following Sanders, and all of those, you know, morals, the integrity, the values that they supposedly stood for have just been tossed. And at first I saw that on one side extremely more than the other side. I saw that really coming from the right. And then I'm seeing it more, which is disgusting me, from the highly progressive people that were Sanders followers. And I'm seeing it a lot from the left. And it's driving me crazy because I'm like, everything you just said, you threw away with your hypocrisy. And to that point where like somebody's like attacking you because you said something that wasn't perfect, instead of saying, well, what do you mean by that? Do you see how that hurts people? You know why we're not saying that, right? And then you say no, and we say, well, here's why. And you say, my bad, or you don't. And people are forgetting. I get that social media is a nightmare because everybody's had it up to here. And there's assumptions, oh, you're just like this person because you remind me of them. Well, you don't know me. You don't know my history. I literally, like you just said, was going through which hashtag to do to not get in trouble. And I obviously picked the wrong damn one. And here we are. And so, you know, the E and L in love is empathy. And we talk about that all day long. We've got to get to that point where we start jumping in to be more empathetic to all, because we're humans. The outcome we want is peace and love and happiness. And there's many roads to get there. Let's help each other choose the best road. That's it.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. It's we've gotten a lot of comments here. A lot of Robert says, planting seeds rules. Yes, that's what I do, Robert. It's like just planting seeds. Just go back and water them every once in a while. Ellie's one of our brand new friends. She's amazing. For everybody in their busy lives, you need to invest in sharpening your tools, and you need to invest in longevity. Amen, 100%. Sister. Amen, sister. You guys are all phenomenal. Hitting people. Teresa is one of our other favorite fans. She's going through some stuff, so I knew she would find this inspirational. And of course, yes, we love you too. We love you too. You know,
wait, real quick, Chris, I gotta say something.
What?
Thank you, Patricia Goyette.
You did it.
I just wanted to say it. Chris and I butcher her name so much, we owe it to her. So I had to do that for the team.
Thank you. Oh yes. Megan Watson, love, grace, and empathy as the antidote. But you know, thinking about where we need to go, Monica, for what it is that you're pursuing, what is your advice to people watching today? I mean, everybody's dealing with uncertainty. They're dealing with COVID. They're dealing with, what's going to happen in the election. They're dealing with their finances and their houses and everything. And how do we, because you're the epitome of unstoppable. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, wow. I'm just going to become an attorney. I'm just going to defend myself. Screw it. I mean, you're
that's only half of that story that I can share right now.
But your sense of determination is like, it's do you know who David Goggins is?
I'm like,
he's an endurance maniac. I mean, literally he runs 100-mile races without preparing. He is psychotically just determined. You are the female version of that in a different aspect, because I feel like you would sit there and see a 200-foot wall and you'd have a piece of rope that's like 202 feet and you'd be like, I'll still make it. But what do you say to the people right now who are struggling, men and women, and especially to women? What message do you give them to get them from being where they're at, which is complacency, mediocrity, self-sacrifice, someday when this happens, when someday the kids are out of the house, then I'll divorce my husband and then I'll go after my life. What do you say?
Okay, so there's a couple things that I want to say. It's like when you're in the eye of the storm, you think you can't get out, but know that it's part of the process. So part of this storm that you're in, or the funk that you're in, it's all a part of your journey that's going to get you to the next point. So if I look at where my life was when, shit hit the fan and I became a single mom, and I look at that point of being, completely in a state of fear and panic and distress. It was chaos. And then I look at all the lessons I learned through that process and the person that I've become and how strong I've become. I wouldn't be that same person. And then I look back to everything that I've learned even before that point. And I always talk about that spool of thread, that string that you can get at the twine. And if you pull it all out, and if you go back to as far back as you can remember and think about those significant people and situations that are in your life, they're all connected. They all lead you to the point where you're supposed to be. So if you're in that place right now, breathe. If there's days that you just need to go, I need a break and soak into it and really have a good cry, it's okay to do that, And I always look at those situations as the universe is telling you, you've got to slow down because I'm going to use your energy later. So if this is the only way I can slow you down, and sometimes I get like that, where I'm dead, I'm tired. And, it usually happens right before, at the end of the year, between Christmas and New Year's, I'm like flat out. And instead of being bad on myself or hard on myself, I'm like, I got it. I know this. It's going to pass, because the universe is saying, I got to stop you dead in your tracks, girl, because I got some big things happening for you. And if I don't slow you down, you're going to burn out. So I guess it's realizing where you are in that storm, being okay to go, okay, ask yourself for forgiveness, go sleep in, go get the bubble bath, stay positive, surround yourself with good people, believe, and know that you're being tested for what's yet to come. And it's all part of the journey.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. And what you just said is so spot on, because Scott and I were talking, we talked multiple times during the week, and we were just recently talking about adrenals and everything. And it's like, we both were telling stories where we just kept going and going and going and going. And, universe source still tap on your shoulder, like a wham, you're going to stop. You're going to stop real good. You're going to learn what it means to be tired all day. You're going to learn what it means to be miserable. You're going to learn what it means to take care of yourself and have that rest. You have to do that. I mean, we're always pounding that point into people, that it's amazing. When I talk to somebody who's miserable, I've gone to this, I used to like go into the psychology of it. And I just like, are you taking care of yourself? Yes or no? 99% of the people I talk to that come to me with troubles, they're like, well, I could do a better job. I'm like, how much water do you drink a day? Well, I don't drink water. I drink coffee because I'm tired, because I don't get enough sleep. I'm like, what are you eating? I'm eating fast food because I don't have time to make anything. I'm like, okay, so you realize you're trying to drive a Ferrari on, Arco gas, which out here in California is crap gas. You realize that, right? So you realize that the results you're aiming for are going to be crap, right? You understand 2 + 2, right? So it's great that we have to do that, but it's so important to, like you shared, Monica, that the people out there need to love themselves. I mean, come on, it starts with self-love. That's why the airplane mask comes over us, so we can take care of everybody else, and then we're able to take care of everybody else so much more. I love what you've been sharing tonight, Monica. I mean, really, it's what people need to hear. It's what women need to hear. I saw my mom go through being raped when I was 15 years old. I mean, there's just so much we could talk about. We would love to have you back on as a guest and continue talking about, because we didn't even hit women in media and some other things. Would you be willing to come back and talk to us about some other current issues?
I would love that. I could think of a handful of things that I'd love to talk about that really will help people through, build their resilience. And I've got just little things that I've learned that I think would be helpful for other people. And I'll leave you with this one thing too, is when I was being served all the time. And so I was being served, and, every time I got that little manila envelope, and it was pretty thick sometimes, I'd know that it wasn't good news. And everything that I was working on or everything that I was doing, I'd probably have to do a couple all-nighters, and I'd have to figure out how to work through it. And so what I got really good at doing is seeing that manila envelope and kind of going, fuck it, I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to open it when I'm ready to open it. I don't have to open it as soon as I get it, and I will deal with it as soon as I get it. So whatever it is that's kind of pushing you, that you feel that, that's kind of pushing you that you need to deal with something, and if you don't need to deal with it, visualize a bookshelf, put it on the bookshelf, leave it there until you feel strong enough to deal with it. When you feel strong enough, you go grab that thing off the shelf, you focus solely on it, give yourself a time limit, power through, clear it off, put it back up, and move on. And really just clear it off. Don't take that energy with you, but just take your power back.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. I want to acknowledge, Teresa says, thank you, Monica. Angel says the future is a journey you take slowly. Ellie says, Monica, thank you for your words and wisdom. This made me realize what to expect for my future and see what life has to offer. I'm so grateful. I knew Ellie and Monica were going to be, Ellie's 26 and she's amazing. She's going to be a great coach. She's going to be a great advocate in the world, making huge differences. I have to acknowledge this one for Patricia. This is the story I always get to tell. This is the exact same one. Patricia gave this to me we were at a conference together, and my cat was dying. He had oral squamous cell carcinoma coming out of his mouth, and I snuck him into the Sheraton in LAX. My friends all helped me. We snuck him up there. We put a bunch of towels down. He was bleeding, and I had to be there, but I couldn't leave him at home. And Patricia was such a sweetheart. We were sitting there talking, having a drink or something like that. She goes, hang on a second, I'll be right back. And she came back and she gave me this. And before, it used to be dark blue. And I said, you know what? We always have to believe. We always have to believe in ourselves. We always have to believe in everything. And I've only taken it off for like medical procedures and stuff like that. It's all faded. But yes, we have to believe, because I mean, if you don't believe, then where it is it that you're going to go? Scott, some final thoughts.
Yeah, I'd like to just finish up one of the thoughts that Monica was sharing and add to it. You were talking about that idea of needing to open the envelope. One of the biggest things that we do as human beings, we create attachments to things that we think we need to do, and they come with emotion. So I would say this: create only one need to be in service to yourself and make your cup overflow. That's it. So hear that again. That's all self-love. Need to make your cup overflow. Constant self-love. Get the sleep you need. If you need a beer at one of your shows once in a while, drink the damn beer. If you're in the middle of a health kick, be in the health kick. But you know what you need deep down. Do those things for you, because when your cup overflows, then you have the energy to take that envelope that you didn't want to see, and you can handle it. But if you don't have that overflowing cup, it's going to be that much more difficult to handle all those perceived needs. And again, I absolutely love you, Monica. Everything you're saying resonates so much. Now we have one more amazing woman that we get to look up to, and we appreciate that greatly.
Monica's an angel. Yes. Be live, be live. Yes. What was that? Booby bracelet? I thought it was a booby bracelet, Chris. Not a booby bracelet. What the heck is a booby bracelet? I know what a booby bra is, but I don't know what a booby bracelet is. Well, Wow. Where can people get a hold of you, Monica? Because I know there was a few people in there that says, I got to get a hold of her. I got to get a hold of her. Where can people touch base with you? Because obviously you are impacting lives and people want to be aboard of that train that's going to go busting through a bunch of bullshit that's going on in the world today. So, and Scott and I are on board with you going, whoo, let's go. Where can people get a hold of you?
So thank you so much for having me on your show. It was really great. I enjoyed this dialogue. I think it's really important. And, it's really important to be authentic, not just rehearsed, and actually say what's really on your mind is very important. So thank you for providing that platform, and to Patricia for connecting Scott and Christopher. You can get a hold of me through, check out my website. So universalwomensnetwork.com. So it's kind of funny. We talk about the universe, and that's part of my name for the company that I chose, which is completely in line. And also you can connect up with me on LinkedIn. So send me a note on LinkedIn. That would be fantastic. So universalwomensnetwork.com. Of course, we're on Twitter, Women's Network, and check us out on Facebook. But all our contacts are on the website. So feel free to poke around there, check out Women of Inspiration, and we've got some amazing women. My goal is to continue growing Women of Inspiration into the US and beyond. So hopefully very soon we'll be able to come to the US and do our program there as well.
Awesome. Thank you again. You have an open invitation anytime you want to come back on the show and talk about explore those topics. Because yes, like Scott said, we have a new reporting roving correspondent to the Friday Night Live show that we love to have. Thank you so much. I'm going to put you guys backstage for a second and kind of close this out, but love you both. Hang on one second and you guys can see what I'm going to say. So, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, an hour and 11 minutes. We try to respect your time because we know it's Friday night and you're going to get on to your plans for this evening. Hope you guys are spending it with family and going to be having fun. I forgot to mention, I'm wearing my 9/11 memorial bandana. I was like, I keep seeing this color and I'm like, I'm not used to wearing colored bandanas. So it's kind of funny, but just to show you that I don't always wear the same old paisley bandanas. There we go. Cause we're commemorating that. But what we got to commemorate really is what we've been saying all along in this hour, is that you got to commemorate yourself. You got to think about the situations you're in. I post a meme very often that says life is simple. And it says, do you like what you're doing? Keep doing that. And if you don't like what you're doing, do something fucking different. Life is simple. Life is simple. If you're choosing to go to a job you hate, if you're choosing to stay with somebody you don't like, if you're choosing to have friends that don't support you and don't make you grow, then guess what? You need to go look in the accountability mirror and say, hey, listen, Chris, you're making some pretty stupid decisions lately and it's not working in your benefit. It's not getting you closer to your stated goals. It's getting you further from your stated goals. So if you think you're going to live forever, then keep on trucking, but you're not going to live forever. And you don't want to end up one day with a bucket full of regrets. So, what we said tonight, yes, it's not easy. I've told people that have been in horrible relationships, they're like, I don't have any money. I have nowhere to go. I'm like, do you have a car? Do you know somebody you could park in their driveway? Sometimes you have to take the ultimate sacrifice to be able to get where it is that you need to go. I've taken ultimate sacrifices. Monica has, Scott has, all of these crazy people over here, the Misfits for Life. They all have taken those opportunities, because those opportunities are going to suck and they're going to be painful and they're going to be hard. But guess what? When you get over, it's like going over a peak. It's going over a peak. Once you get over there, the view is beautiful. And guess what? It's easier to go down the other side because now you're strong. Now you've earned your wings. I'll leave you with this in case you haven't seen it before. Steve Harvey, The Jump. Go watch it. Steve Harvey video, Jump. It's 1 minute and 58 seconds. If that doesn't change your perspective about shit, then I'm not sure what will. Anyways, we thank you guys, all of you guys being here. Just so many awesome comments. Really, we're so blessed to have you guys as a part of this train that we're creating, and asking the tough questions, having the vulnerable conversations, bringing you into that loop so that we can all grow and expand together. So please, if you found value in this, share it out, put a little explanation, say, hey, I walked away with these 2 or 3 things by watching these guys, and then go put those 2 or 3 things into practice and then go back and tell people about it. Hey, listen, you know what? I got that out of that podcast, that show. And guess what? Here's what I'm doing with it, because people will get inspired by what you do, not what you say. All right. So as always, stay kick-ass, stay unstoppable. We love you guys.